Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
She will say good afternoon when it is evening. We may be 5 minutes behind the 8 p.m. mark, but for some reason our broadcast always has
A
a little
delay.
lag or something in it. I believe it is. But welcome all of you tonight to our seat at the table. This is our first one for the year 2025. We do welcome all of you tonight. Tonight's topic, if you hadn't saw the post that I put out tonight with the flyer, our topic tonight for our beginning of this year is, do you know where you're going? And so many people have set a stage for this year. They have renewed so many of their resolutions, and they have established new resolutions. They have put so many things into play for what they consider to be a resolution. So tonight, the question is, do you really know where you're going? Do you know how you're going to get there? And as we said for the ministry for this year and throughout the year, throughout what we're doing, we're setting the course. But in setting the course, do you really know how you're going to accomplish that? Do you know what you're going to do to accomplish that? Have you really begun to establish a well thought out plan on how you're going to do it? We're 14 days into this year, and I tell my family all the time that I am a person that love numbers. I look at numbers a lot, and because 14 is a number that is a whole number. Welcome tonight. I look at a lot of things, and I know that we have a lot that's going on, and so many things that have carried over from last year, from all of the disasters that are going on, and all of the things that have transpired, from the hurricanes that people are recovering from here in Florida, from tornadoes, from tsunamis, to even in California, they're still trying to recover from the wildfires that are there and across the world. Uh, Definitely, Bishop. We're definitely praying. We definitely will do what we can to see about trying to get some Bibles out to you guys in the next several weeks. I can't guarantee it that the next several weeks it'll be done, but we'll definitely put some things together. If you would inbox me an address to where we can send these Bibles while we're praying for the people that are there, praying for the work of the ministry that you're doing there, praying that God continue to give you the endowments by His Spirit to preach a word that is not only in season, but that you continue to teach what is necessary for those that has an ear to hear what the word has to say, that you establish the plan, that in spite what may come about, that you continue to move forward in what is necessary to give that said word, that they're ready to receive it. And when they receive it and accept it, that you establish it and give them that solid foundation. As Paul said in 2 Timothy chapter 2, one of my favorite scriptures I love, and that is, he said, nevertheless, the faith of God standeth sure, and this seal, those that really want to move forward, those that really want to live for Christ, those that really are going to move in the direction that Christ says, they will depart from iniquity. They will move away from the things that they know will not glorify God, does not represent Christ, that will not put them in position to pull them out of the things that show forth the work that God has done from the inside out, that begin to show forth to people that they're willing to exemplify, to exhibit, to glorify, to show forth His life that He lived. There's some pain, there's some suffering in it. There's some things that you're going to have to give up. There's some lifestyle changes that has to take place. So when you're looking at the fact of what our topic is tonight, and as we work this topic over the next several weeks and the next couple months, and you're talking about do you know where you're going, you have to have some kind of idea. You have to have some kind of thought process that you have come up with. You have to really put yourself in position to establish a plan. First of all, you got to decide that you've had enough of where you are. You have to actually decide that you are not just tired, but you're ready to come out. You have decided that you're not just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and not just saying you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You made the choice to get up. You recognize that it's not going to be an easy task. It's not going to be an easy road. You realize that you're going to be mishandled, misused, talked about. People are going to walk away from you. You're going to lose some things. You may be without some things. You may not have access to some things. People may not want to be bothered. There's going to be some loss in some kinds of way. Family may walk away from you. You may lose access to financial, economical, social, emotional, physical access to certain things. Are you ready to make that move when you decide that you have said that you profess with your mouth, you believed in your heart that Jesus Christ both died and rose from the grave and he's seated at the right hand of God? You decided that you're no longer going to, execute in the same way. You've laid aside every weight. You know the things that put you in position, and you know the people that you hung with. You know the things that you participated in. You know the kind of life and lifestyle that you carried on with. You know it's not going to be easy just to lay it aside. You know people going to see you coming in to the house of God. You know you're going to have people going to look at you. Yeah, they talking about Jesus. Yeah, they saying that. That's what they talking about now. But you know the kind of clothes. You ain't going to have all the kind of clothes that represent Christ, because you recognize that when you decided to change the side of the street that you was walking on, and you may be walking on the same side of the street, you ain't walking on the same side of the street. You changed the pocket in which you carried your bandana in. It is not in the same pocket anymore. And people are not going to accept the fact that you're not handling things the same way. Do you really know which way you're going? Do you realize the choice that you have made? Do you understand that when you made that choice, you made that decision, you're no longer participating in certain religious aspects that you once participated in? You're no longer going about doing the same things you once did. You're no longer just bowing down. You're no longer just covering up. You're no longer just no longer just say, okay, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm trying to be real nice about it, but you're not going through the motion. You're not just kissing the forehead, and you're not just kissing the ring. You're not just paying homage. You're not just going through the ritual of what it says that the custom says, but you're really living the lifestyle. You're no longer showing an exterior manifestation that you care for folk, but it's an interior motivating belief that you really love folk. Do you really know where you're going? People can now genuinely see that you love them. You have a genuine concern for them. You have a absolute positive care for who they are. So, do you know where you're going? You set up. You remove the swastikas. You're no longer just not eating pork because the religion say you can't eat pork. You're not hanging out with certain people because religious belief says you can't be with them. You're not just worshiping with certain creeds and color of folk on worship Sunday or worship day of the week because that's what it says. And then when benediction is given, you go your way, I go my way. You got one part of heaven and I got another part of heaven. And that's not how it is. No, you recognize you're not looking at folk because they don't look the way you look. Or you doing one thing in front of folk and another thing when you're not around folk. You're living that same way all the way around. You're helping folk because you recognize that if they find themselves caught up in the same thing or caught up by something that didn't look like what they once were doing, but it has now overtaken them and brought them back into the same kind of sin, but it disguised itself. Your job as a believer, your job as being as spirit filled and as anointed as you say you are, is not to put a foot down on them, but to help them to now be restored. You going through the restoration process. You showing them how now to clean up, wash up. You showing them how to tear this stuff out, remove this stuff. Now go through the process of cleaning, going through the process of detoxing, going through the detoxification, now coming out, now showing them how to get up and live again and carry themselves because you're carrying theirs, but you're not forgetting about living yourself. Because if you do that, then you fall as well. Do you really know where you're going? Do you recognize on this journey that you can get so caught up with your saved self as a pastor? You're now being consecrated, affirmed as a prophet, as a bishop, as an apostle, as an overseer, as an elder, and you're caught up with the title. You're caught up in the position. You're caught up as the music leader. You're caught up as the presiding. You're caught up as, going in as the pastor, and now you forgot who you are. You don't know how to live. You don't know how to distinguish between being able to be both human and spiritual at the same time. You forgot that you're a trichotomy. You forgot that you're a husband. You forgot that you have a wife. You forgot that you're a man. You forgot that you're a woman. You forgot that you're a father. You forgot that you're a mother. You forgot that you're a neighbor. You forgot that you're a friend. You forgot that you're a co-worker. Do you really know where you're going? Do you understand that you're a cousin? Do you understand that you're an aunt? Do you understand that you're an uncle? Do you understand that you're a literal brother to somebody, a brother to somebody else, a sister to somebody? You have a biological, you may have an adopted, you may be engrafted into a family. Do you realize that we are all brothers and sisters in Christ, no matter what we look like? Do you recognize that along this journey, do you know where you go? Do you have a sight of where you're going? Because if you have no idea where you came from, you have no idea where you are, and you cannot see where you're going because you're blinded by the mere fact that you forgot that you came out of nothing, that you came from the bottom, that you came out of all types of sin, that you came out of being messed up in the mind, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. You had your moments where you were literally in places of depression that didn't nobody know. You were at a place where you were ready and wanted to take your life. You tried to take your life. You were going through cuttings. You were going through burnings. You tried to drown yourself by sitting up under the water. You put yourself in position where you took multiple pills and tried to destroy your own self. You went through the position where you tried to run into a wall and destroy yourself. You tried to hang yourself. You tried to suffocate yourself, but God delivered you. You put yourself in position where you played Russian roulette and you lived, but the person you played with, their life either was taken or they're in some convalescent home because they destroyed themselves so bad that they have to have somebody to care for them 24 hours because they cannot tell when they have to go to the bathroom. Do you know where you're going? I want you to put that on your mind tonight with this first seat at the table. So let's sit at the table and let's think about it. Do you know where you're going? Because my great grandmother always said to us as children, to my aunts, to my uncles, if you have no clue of where you came from, not everybody was born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Not everybody was born with a wooden spoon in their mouth that simply meant it was easy for them. They didn't have to worry about hardship. Not everybody recognized that their parents had to work hard. They were suffering. They were going through. Some of y'all don't even know that your parents went to bed hungry at night. Some of y'all don't realize how bad your parents had it. But you had the good stuff. You whined, you cried, you did all kind of stuff. Your parents were always working. They had 2 and 3 jobs. Daddy was always gone, and you just thought daddy didn't want to be there. You thought mama just didn't want to be bothered, but they were giving you everything that you wanted because they wanted you to have what they were not able to have, what they could not afford. And they afforded you life and lifestyles, and they gave you a lifestyle that was so lavish that you got to the place that you thought that's what you were supposed to give your kids because that's what you had. You ate some of the best kinds of meals, and other kids, they had wieners, Vienna sausages, pie meat. Some of us, like myself, we know what it was to have syrup sandwiches, sugar sandwiches, mayonnaise sandwiches. Some of us know what it is to have missed meal cramps. Some of us know what it is to have our neighbors to bring over their leftovers because we didn't really have a whole lot of food. We had hand-me-downs, burlap sack underwears and stuff. Parents had to make it. Some of y'all had it good. Hand-me-down underwear, hand-me-down shoes. Some of us, like myself, had to put cardboard in the bottom of our shoes. Some of y'all don't know what that is to live like that. Do you really know where you're going? Do you have an idea where you came from? Some of us had to have daddy put a bowl on top of your head to give you a haircut. Y'all don't know what it is to have a bowl cut. Y'all don't know what that is. Scissors as a haircut. Y'all don't know what that is. The old grass lawnmower where you had to push it and the blade used to turn. It wasn't a motor. You had to walk behind that joker and cut the grass. Get out there with some scissors and cut grass. Some of y'all don't understand that. Some of y'all don't know that. You said, Bishop, Rhea, Gary, John, what are you talking about? We grew up on the bayou. Lemongrass, swamp root. They made all of those things, cow patty tea, things of that nature, where they made stuff of that nature when you had colds. Do you know where you're going? Do you understand what it is to be able to move forward and be at a place and be at a position? Do you understand how to really thrive and survive and move forward when things get to a place to where you know how to manage the little bit you got? Do you know what it is and understand principal, interest, how to pay more towards it? We laugh because somebody may not have an education like we had, but don't understand that a lot of these folk had better educations than we had because the educations that our parents had, they had actually had when they had a third grade and second grade and fourth grade and fifth grade education. When we was in the fourth and fifth grade, they were really having college educations when we really didn't because what they were taught was on a level far beyond what we had. Welcome all of you. So do you really know where you're going? And some of my cousins that I see that are on tonight, they understand that. They know what it is because some of them went through it far greater than I did. Seeing family members having to cut sugar cane with a cane knife. Because the reason why is it was called a cane knife because they cut cane with it or with a sickle. Some of y'all may have seen a sickle in a book because that's what they taught you in school. But they use those and walking behind, the wagon and taking the piece of sugar cane after the row been cut open and dropping a piece of sugar cane in the row and then it covered up because that's how they grew the sugar cane. Cutting puckwood. My mom and my cousin Carolyn, their family, they all know what that is. Walking the bayou, walking the railroad track. Y'all may not understand some of that. But these are some of the things that they dealt with. We came up behind. Some of it was still going on when I was a kid. But some of y'all not understanding that. So do you know where you're going? They got good educations because their parents, our grandparents, our aunts, our great aunts ensured that we didn't have to endure what they did. My cousin Picola, my aunt Picola, they made sure that we didn't have to go through those things because they taught us what to do, not to go down the roads that would have got us there, but showed us how to navigate to make sure that we didn't. And if by chance you stumbled, you knew how to come back and recover from it. Do you know where you're going? Do you know how to recover from it if by chance you find yourself down that road, not because you made a choice and you messed up, but for some reason life take you down that road? Do you know what to do when you get there? Do you have the mental capability? Do you have the psychological wherewithal to handle what's getting ready to take place so that you don't get to a place where you become drunken in a stupor because you have now become spaced out, because you're depressed and you don't know what to do and you're ready to lose it all because you don't have nobody to show you how to come out? Do you have a real, genuine relationship with God? And there are many that do, but because they don't know how to really access and don't have the accessibility of how to use the tools that they have to come out. There are many men that have toolboxes and they have box wrenches, open end wrenches, they have socket wrenches, they have crescent wrenches, they have pipe wrenches, they have monkey wrenches, they have hex tools, they have Allen wrenches, and half of them don't even know what to do with them because they don't know what they're for and why they're there and why they're named what they're named for. They don't even know what to do with it in the first place. They don't know how to begin to operate with the tools they have. There are musicians that are gifted, but they are gifted by God. They're skillful, but they are not talented, but they really don't know how to use it and won't let nobody teach it. And when they have been taught, oh, they excel because the gift, the talent, and the anointing, now they collaborate together because they know where they're going, because they know where they came from. Because David was not only anointed, he was not only gifted and skilled, but he was also taught. And because he was taught, he was able to enhance. Because he was able to enhance, he was able to now skillfully show somebody else. Do we do that along the journey? Do we pass on? Our families did that for us. Are you passing on the legacy? That's what happened in a lot of our families with most of the recipes that our families have. The legacy is lost because great grandma didn't want to pass it on to grandma. And if grandma got it, grandma didn't want to pass it on to mama. And if mama got it, mama didn't want to pass it on to daughter. And if daughter got it, she didn't want to pass it on to her daughter. But it got to the place to where now nobody remembers how it was done, how it was cooked, what goes into it. They just remember what the flavor was because we chose not to pass it on because they didn't want to give it to nobody else because that's what they were taught. They were taught to hide it instead of passing it on. The legacy goes on and is kept and is given, is moved on. Do you know where you're going? Have you really set the plan for this year? That I know that last year, and I want you to write down at least 4 things that you know you made as a choice, and you started off last year, that you started off in this year. The mental choices that you made, the verbal words that you stated, the physical things that you did, and the emotional things that you did, And then finally, the spiritual choices you're still operating in. And if you're still operating off of those same principles, you're going to continue to live the same way this year that you live for the last several years of your life. Whether you're 20, whether you're 80, whether you're 30, whether you're 60, whether you're 50. Because if we're not changing our mind, Paul said in the 12th chapter of his letter to the believers at Rome, he said that if we don't allow our mind to be changed, he said, be not conformed to this world. What conformity are we still allowing to shape us? Are we still shaped by all of the things that happen? Are we still allowing what transpired the last several hours of this day to cause us to contemplate where we are going to go on tomorrow? Or have we decided to look at and we've written down a mental note that here's what happened on our job? If we're a teacher, preacher, pastor, musician, truck driver, whether we are first responder, that means if you're in the military, you're a police officer, you work in a hospital, you work in a jail, and you're in the medical field, you saw what happened. Are you still allowing the same things to happen? You're in conversations with coworkers, you're around coworkers, you're hearing what's being said. Have you allowed yourself to flush what has been said out of your mind, out of your spirit, out of your heart? Because when you get there tomorrow, some of those same things going to be repetitively said over and over and over again. And what's going to happen? You're going to allow it to now take root because the seed's been planted visually, audibly, and mentally. And then the next thing going to happen, it's going to take root in your thoughts. When that happens, you've given it the water that it needs to grow. He says, one planted, another water. God gonna allow it to have the increase because you keep allowing somebody to water the seed that you gave an opportunity to be planted into your thoughts. David said, guard my mind, guard my thoughts, guard my lips. When you start speaking with them on it, you giving them access continually to your audible, to your visual, and to your mind. You got anything? I'm gonna stop for a second.
Now, one of the biggest things that I looked at whenever you was talking, whenever most of us that have children, and especially children that have crossed over into adulthood, whenever our kids was in high school, and we got one that's in her junior year now, our question to her often is, what is your plan? What is your next step? Because one of the biggest things that I keep in mind is a lot of us got asked those same questions whenever we entered into high school. What is your plan? And many times, whenever we make a plan, I look at things a little different now. I know you be messing with me about my audiobooks, but one of the books I was listening to, one of the ladies, that's one of the characters in the book, she strategized. And every obstacle that come before her, she looked at every situation and she strategized the outcome of how she's going to overcome that situation without compromising who she is.
I like
And
that.
whenever I look at that and I think about it, whenever we say that we're going to make a plan, how well do we strategize that plan? We know from year to year that every year has its share of obstacles and trials that's going to be faced, right?
Yeah.
But whenever we look at it like that, we also have to look at a strategy of what could happen. What is it that I have in place of this, because we already know nothing's going to happen to us without us being aware of it. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We're going to have all type of warnings before God allow us to be in a situation. So we know a lot of the situations that we wind up in become of our own choices, right? Right. And whenever we look at it, when we make this decision, this is what that outcome is going to be. So whenever I make this decision, I need to make sure that a lot of times what we don't think about is whenever we go and buy that new car or we go buy that new house, we don't put in place in case something happened that I lose my employment. Do I have enough in my savings to carry me through for the next 2 months? Right. Or we don't look at, if I take this trip with my friend, am I going to have what I need to make sure that my bills are met? Because we live in a society now where things have gone up. We know that when we go to the grocery store, where we used to spend about $200 or $300, we looking at it now, we're spending $500, right? So because whenever we look at that, we're spending $500, are we looking at what is it that I can take away? Because whenever you look at it and you strategize it, now you got to start seeing what is a necessity and what's not. Because a lot of times the things that we want and desire is not a necessity. Because we have to look at everything that we have going on. And I look at it like this because I just went through this situation myself, is that whenever I look at everything that was coming in and I broke it down to what it is a week, and I realized, wait a minute, this is more than what is actually coming in. And a lot of times whenever we make plans, we don't look at things strategically. Say it for me. Strategically. We don't look at it. And we don't really emphasize on what if, because a lot of times we don't like the what if. But what if means that I look and understand that anything can happen. And because I look at that, a lot of times whenever we get ready to travel, one of the biggest things that I look at, and we start making our travel plans, we're planning everything out. We're planning birthday parties. We're planning trips. We're planning family reunions. We'll make sure that we're looking at the weather, trying to make sure the weather right, because we want to make sure everybody outside that we can enjoy the weather. If it's too hot, we need to make sure we can get a center. We need to make sure that we have the right amount of money. We need to make sure that the food is going to be right. We know that cousin Susu can't cook, so we need her to bring the paper plates and everything. We strategize all these things, but we don't strategize what's important. We don't look at everything whenever we make a plan. We'll have a plan or we'll have an idea. And I know, because who I am, I know that I can be impulsive. So whenever we recognize these things about ourselves, and the fact that I know I am impulsive, I have now gotten to the place where I look at things a little more harder than I once did. Because I was, and I knew that I was impulsive. I'd be like, I want it, I'm going to get it. I work to pay it off. But what happens if you get sick? Because a lot of times, a lot of jobs now, and that's one of the biggest things that me and my son often talk about, is that a lot of times people have jobs now that you may have a week's vacation, but you don't have all the stuff that we used to have. We used to have PTO, we used to have sick time, we used to have every way that you can have a time to where you can take a day off. One of the jobs we found down here in Florida, that we had our birthday was classified as a holiday. If we took that day off for our birthday, or we could say that birthday holiday for another day. Exactly. But we also realized that we have worked jobs that we couldn't afford to take off. We couldn't afford just to say that I'm going to take a vacation, and all you got is a vacation days, but you didn't have a vacation pay. Right. So it hurt you to be in certain situations. So whenever we look at things, we have to look at it from different angles. Whenever we deal with each other, we have to also look that, and maybe I had fallen out with somebody, but I also have to look at pertaining to where that person's mind is. They may come out the bag on me. So I need to make sure that I have myself in the right mind frame before I get involved in this situation, because I need to make sure that the outcome becomes beneficial, not to hurt or injure. Go ahead. Right. And that's what planning, preparing,
It actually does. Because when you do these things and you know that you have planned, prepared, you've looked at, you have strategized, you have set up a strategic plan, you have looked at the outlook, which means you've looked down the road. You know the people that you have now invited to whatever you have going on. You are planning to buy a house, buy car, you're looking to take vacation, you looking just to take time off, you know you want to buy some new furniture, you getting ready to upgrade your kitchen, your bathroom, you want to upgrade the floors in your house. You've already counted the cost. The Word of God tells us, when a man get ready to build, he count the cost. Have you really counted the cost? So do you know where you're going? When you get ready to make that decision that you're no longer going to run the street, you're ready to settle down, as we used to say back in the day. When we were kids, that's what we heard a lot of the older people say. Yes, I'm about ready to settle down and I'm going to get me a wife, I'm going to get me a girlfriend, I'm going to get me a husband, a boyfriend, I'm going to get me a spoogie. That's what they said where we from. They called them a spoogie, you know. So we know when those things were said, that meant you was gonna have that one person. You weren't gonna be with two or three different people. That meant it was, just you and them. It was somebody that was just. What's the word they called it back then? You was an item. Is what they called it. It was just you and them. Mm-hmm. And when you did that, you counted the cost of all the dates you was gonna have, all the nookie you knew you was gonna miss, all of the money you was gonna miss as a woman from all the men that you wasn't gonna be able to go and be with and lie to and say, well, it was that time of the month, and but he still gave you money and he paid bills, but you had to sleep with him and you tell him lies all your girl, I had to live with it, but God sure got his money. He sure took me out to eat. And we know women have done that. We know there's a lot of things that have happened, but we also know there have been a lot of times where women have been hurt. They have been raped. They have been beaten. And we know some women have lost their lives because of that. So have you really counted the cost? Have you really looked at the fact that you're really ready to settle down? You really ready to say that you ready to be with that one woman, that one man, and they're gonna be with them for the rest of your life. Where people have decided they are not going to be with anybody. They're not going to lay with a man. They're not going to lay with a woman until they're married. And people have made fun of that person because they chose to stay pure. They chose to stay a virgin, until they're married. And we think that it's funny when it's not. So do you know where you're going? When you make that decision that here's where I'm going, and where I'm going is that my mind has been totally sold out in the choice that how I'm going to get to the end is that I know that I cannot allow, not I cannot do, I cannot allow my choices to get in the way of my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to allow myself to be with this one person because I recognize from seeing, hearing, knowing that what everybody else have suffered, gone through, what I've allowed myself to read upon. I've seen my mother, my father, my sisters, my friends. I watch neighbors go through it because they have had multiple partners, and I've listened at the emotional. I've watched them psychologically become, impaired, impeded. I've seen them become so depressed and locked off because they allowed themselves to become so inundated with so many people that they thought they were in love with and that they really was in love with, that they gave themselves over to it. They did so many things to it. And you hearing what they say they did, I know where I'm going and I know how I'm going to get there. And how I'm going to get there is that I decided that that's not a road that I'm going to go on. And I realized because I made that decision, I made that choice. I know so many things going to come up against me. I know so many people going to say this, they're going to say that. This is going to be tried, that's going to be tried. I know there's going to be so many games going to be played, so many things going to be up against me, so many people going to try to entrap me. That's what you have to do everything that you possibly can do to discipline your thoughts, your feelings, your affections, your desires, your hungers, your appetites. Is it easy? No. So when you know where you're going, you have to get to the place to where you find a gratification in being able to now reward yourself in other ways of being able to enjoy life without allowing yourself to feel like a failure because other folks say you missing out. Well, maybe I am, but I'm not missing out on the emotional distortion, the emotional hurt, the emotional pain, the feeling of being a psychological failure, being in an emotional slump, feeling as though that I've lost everything and I can't seem to see my way and saying I can't live without her. I can't live without him. I might as well be dead. No, I'm good. Because you have to learn to discipline. You create things that now not suppress, but deflate those things that now bring it. Trust me, it can be done. Have I been down that road? Yes, I've been down that road. I'm talking from personal experience. And even after you get a helpmeet, whether you're a woman or whether you're a man, you still have to now learn to crave feelings, crave desires, crave hungers, because you've allowed things to come in your life. You allow taste, desires, hungers, appetites. They still try to come up. So do you really know where you're going? Yes, you're saved. You have a relationship. Yeah, you go to church. You know the Lord. You've been with the Lord. You done been in and out. You've been on a seesaw. You've been playing tug of war and all of that. But do you really know where you're going? Do you know how you want to get here? And as Deborah Cox said, how did you get here? Nobody's supposed to be here. Y'all remember that song? Mm-hmm. So you know for yourself, how did it get here? You change your mind. But some way a crack got in. But then you remember God said, I know my thoughts towards you. You keep saying he know your expected end. So he expected you to now allow some things, but he knew himself in you. Because he said, have you considered? Because he wasn't looking at the consideration of you. He was looking at the consideration that you were going to choose him in you. And that's what we have to choose every time. He knew that at some point that you would falter, but he was expecting you to get up. Have you picked yourself up this year? Have you recognized that you have to now remember the goal that you first set? Mm-hmm. And in that goal that you first set, you can still achieve it. It's not gone, it's not dead, it's not over. It hasn't ended. You still alive, right? You still got breath, right? Yeah. Put your hand in front of your face and blow in your hand. And if you can still feel the breath coming out of your mouth, it's not over. And everybody used to love Kirk Franklin, and Kirk Franklin said, it ain't over. It ain't over. But we knew before Kirk Franklin even came up with the song with the words in it, it ain't over. We knew it wasn't over because we were still alive. We knew the words was in another song where it said, it ain't over till the fat lady sing. Ain't no fat lady sung yet. And we knew those words was when the fat lady sung, that meant you were dead. Come on. You ain't dead yet. So you got to think about it. You have to do your best. You know the sin that you like. You know the taste that you have. You know the desires that you got. We know the things that's going to aggravate blood pressure, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. We know what's going to aggravate headaches, stress, depression. You know if you are schizophrenic, schizophrenia 1, schizophrenia 2. You know if you bipolar 1, bipolar 2. You know if you on a bipolar 3, bipolar 4, schizophrenia 4. You know if you there. You know if you manic depressive. You know if you at that place where you have disassociation, if you have identity dissociation disorder 1, 2, 3, 4, or if you're on that level that's so bad that you seeing stuff. Come on, y'all. You know what needs to be done. You know how. You know if you have anxiety separation disorder. We need to call it what it is. Everything is not spiritual. Some of these things are natural. And you talking about we gotta go out on and get, a seance. No, you don't. Some of these things are natural. And you need to recognize that you have, you know, uh, some real physical disabilities. You have some chemical imbalances. And there's some things that need to be brought under control first. And once they're brought under control, then you can begin to now have some things balanced off and then have some things pulled out of your way. Then you can have some of those medications pulled away because now you can recognize and see what's really going on and you can have a well leveled life. You don't have to have somebody coming in talking about they're casting out demons. Hold up, slow your roll. Wait a minute. We so spiritual that we're blind and we're dumb. Do you know where you're going? Do you know where you came from? So when we see that, we recognize that, we understand that, we realize that, we begin to place that, we begin to plan that, we begin to strategize that, we begin to strategically look at that. We look at the outlook and we see where it is at because we can see past that. Now we can see where we at. We can see where we came from because we see where we are because we know where we came from. Now we can begin to plan where we're going because we recognize where we are because we recognize where we came from because we don't think ourselves more than everybody else because we see ourselves just as we see everybody else because we're not more than everybody else. We just happen to be in a better place than some other folk. But we understand that we can be right where they are because that's where we came from. And in order to keep from being there, we got to make sure we keep making some of the right decisions. And even though we do, it doesn't matter. Life can happen. Look at California. Look at all of the hurricanes. God trying to tell us something. Money may answer a lot of things. And at one point, money answered everything. But with all the billionaires in the world, it can put California back together again right now. And with all the money that's coming, and with Elon Musk being the richest man around the world, let me say this. Why he ain't gonna pay for everything in California? One man can't do it. It takes everybody. And with all the money is going into all of the nonprofits, part of the monies that's going into nonprofits still got to work the nonprofits while they still put out to some of the people because everything that go in can't go out because some got to stay in. Did y'all realize that? Do you know where you're going? Last thing, I looked at the news last night and I was dozing off and my wife was taking a bath. And the funny thing that caught me before I dozed all the way off was in one of the areas in California, Los Angeles. And I don't know if you heard it while you was in the bathroom.
The love light lady thinking of.
No, not just that. Of all the houses in one of the areas in LA, all the houses around where this house was at was burned down, but one house. No fire hit it, no fire burned it. But every house in that neighborhood was burned up, but one house. So that tell you that if God want to do something, he'll do it. I can't tell you if it was a praying house. Can't tell you if it was a person that was saved. I don't know. But I do know one thing. It was one house in that one neighborhood. Of all the houses in the neighborhood, only one house didn't get burned down.
Wow.
And I was like, wait a minute. Did they just say, and I sat up in the bed. They said every house in the neighborhood got burned down one house. I said, now God say something. Every house in that neighborhood was burned down, but one house. All the houses around it were burned down, completely destroyed to the ground. But only one house was left standing, and it didn't get burned. So you got to think about the hands of the Lord. Do you know where you're going? Now they had evacuated, they had left, but their house was left standing.
Wow.
Are you still standing in spite of what's going on?
Yes, Lord.
So I believe that somewhere in there, they trusted God. They left their house in the hand of the Lord and said, God, whatever you do is what you do. You gave us the house. The Lord gave, the Lord take it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Maybe that's what they said. I wasn't there, but I know that was the only house the news showed that was left standing. And as the song said, I'm still standing.
Yes.
So when you know where you're going, because you know where you came from, you know where you are, you can see where you're
Where you
going.
going?
So God bless you tonight. God keep you tonight. This will be our topic for the next couple weeks and the next couple months. I'll give you some more insight. Lord, spare life on next Tuesday, Lord willing, and we are back together again. We may start a few minutes late. Evangelists have to work on next Tuesday night. Thank you guys for praying for us. Oh, we're gonna start on time. Oh, we're gonna start on time next Tuesday night. She said. Oh, she off next Tuesday night. Oh, that's right. She worked this Tuesday, and she off next Tuesday. Excuse me, she off next Tuesday. Thank you guys for praying for us and praying with me and praying for me. Pray for us on Friday, right? I go to the neurologist.
Tomorrow.
No, that's the dermatologist tomorrow.
Mm.
Friday at 3 o'clock. Pray on Friday when I go to the neurologist that we get some good news. Continue to pray strength. It's nobody but God. Um, had a seizure in my sleep on last Thursday. This Thursday just passed. So just pray that God continue to move, God continue to keep, that God's hands is still uh, upon the life of this little man here, and that he does everything that he said he's going to do. Mm-hmm. So as we travel, they're taking me out of driving. So on the 16th, I'll be in Plant City, Florida, at a neurologist to see what they're going to do from there. So just keep us prayed up and all of that good stuff. Any last words, Evangelist, we get off the air?
We understand that a lot of people, whenever we came into the new year, we made some promises to ourselves. I don't like to use the word New Year's resolution because most of the time those lies are things that we cannot achieve. But one of the big things that I look at is that we've all set some goal for this year of what we were going to do. Some people said, I'm going back to church. I hadn't been to church in a long time. Please know that when you go to church, don't put your eyes on man. Put your eyes on God. Yes. When you go to the building, you recognize that it's just a group of people that have issues just like you that are reaching to get to heaven just like you. Don't go thinking that everyone in there is going to be perfect. Don't go back in there thinking that things are going to be easy because it's not easy. We used to say, must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? Absolutely not. There's some suffering that we have to go through too. And I will not tell you it's easy. I'm not going to tell you that every Sunday going to be a bed of roses because sometimes Pastor going to preach some messages that's going to make you sit back and think and look over your life. But don't leave. Don't be pulled out. Don't be dismayed. Just know that you was planning, that you knew that if anything happened, I can still stand. Some people say, I'm on my weight loss journey and I'm going to lose weight this year. Don't give up. Because you might have messed up this week and you didn't eat according to your diet like you were supposed to. Don't give up. Keep trying. Keep striving. Because most of the time, most of us start a year off, I'm going to have a more healthier lifestyle. A lot of times before we even get in out of April, we have already messed up. But it's the point of getting back up after we mess up. Mm-hmm. Don't stay there. Don't waddle in it. Some of us have made promises to our families and to our friends. Just because you can't get together this month, don't mean that you don't try to get together next month.
Yes.
Don't give up, because God is still mending relationships. He's bringing families back together. Mm-hmm. We have to remember that. So whatever it is, we all recognize that we have all suffered from some point of depression at some time. Yes. Why? Because anytime you close yourself off from the world and from everybody that love you, I'm here to tell you, it's not that what we say is, I'm in a funk this time. You're not in a funk. Let's be honest. You're in some form of depression.
That's right.
And if you stay there and you see it ain't getting no better after you done prayed and you talk to the Lord, seek some help. Don't feel shame that you got to call somebody and talk to somebody. Get the help that you need, because God wants us whole. Exactly. He don't want us broken. He don't want us torn down. He don't want us just coming to him because we continue to be broken and injured. He gave us life, that we can have life more abundantly. It's not just after we get ready to go back with him. He wants us to live now. When we recognize that we can live still, only then will we recognize that we can live out the promises that he has given to each and every one of us. I love you. I love you. I love you. The sister's a little tired because I don't been up since 4:45 this morning. But please know that we love you. And if there's anything that we can do for you, please reach out to us. This year is all about serving God's people, but serving God as well. We love you. God bless you.
Amen. God bless you. We see you on tomorrow night for Fire Fuel Bible Study. So have a great night, okay? We love you.